And we are live. Hey, y'all. Kevin here. Know me as AskPawPaw. And tonight we're talking about some of the biggest mistakes people make when trying to build or buy a tiny home. Whether you're thinking about converting a shed or going off grid or just trying to downsize smart, I've seen folks fall into these traps. So I'm also going to give you a little behind the scenes update on my daughter's tiny home build and take any questions y'all have. So jump in the chat, say hey, let me know where you're watching from, and uh, be sure to drop any questions that you might have right in the chat for us. So let me know if you be sure to let me know if you can hear and see me. I think everything's working. I didn't get a chance to schedule this live stream, so and didn't test it out very much. So we'll see if it works. All right. All right. I got a little sun today. I was out filming a video all day at the one of the local shed lots, doing a video on mistakes that folks make commonly when they're converting a shed to a tiny home. And actually got to go look at several sheds today. And that was a lot of fun. It was very cloudy, but it was hot in this neck of the woods anyway. And the sun must have been shining somewhere because I feel like I got burnt. You guys be sure to drop in the chat where you're watching from. Hey, Mary, how you doing? Good to good to. Well, I was gonna say good to see you, but good to talk to you. Good to talk at you. Can you hear me? Okay. I'm using a different microphone tonight, so I got my little wireless mic. We're gonna see how it works. We're inside the living room. I'm batching it tonight. My wife is out babysitting at my daughter's house, watching the grandbabies while they're out on a date or doing something or other. So it's just me and the dogs here. I'll try to keep them quiet. But I was able to come in the house because it was nice and quiet in here without the grandbabies, and my wife's gone. Not that she's loud anyway, but don't tell her I said that. But usually I'm in my cargo trailer out in the yard, and it's hot out there. So I'm glad I'm in here with the air conditioning. So I got a couple of videos coming up this week. I have a couple of them planned, and they're both centered around mistakes folks make when they build a tiny home or a shed conversion specifically. One, I'm actually reacting to another guy's video that's a pretty popular shed conversion mistake video. And I don't necessarily agree with everything he says. He's got some, hey, sounds good. Thanks. He's got some good points, but some of his things I don't agree with. So that makes going to make for an interesting video. I'm going to go through the things he says and mentions, and we're going to discuss those. And then I also have my own 10 mistakes that are commonly made when people convert sheds. And some of them I've made myself, and some of them I've seen others make, especially in looking at some of the used shed conversions. You see a lot of mistakes that people make. And so those should be really interesting videos, especially if you're planning on doing something like this yourself. maybe you can gain some knowledge from it. So, is it nice weather out there in California? Because it's really nice here. All right, I'm going to pull up some listings from Facebook Marketplace that I thought was really interesting and share them with you guys. If I can get this to work without messing anything up. So here we go. I thought this was really interesting. This was listed recently in my area. Well, not too far. It's within a couple hours of my house. And it's a 16 by 16 building, but it has an upstairs and downstairs. So that's not a bad size for a small little tiny home. It's 18 foot high, and it's part of an estate sale that's actually going on this weekend. So it may be sold by now, but if you'll notice, it's only $5,500. And that's what caught my eye. And I like the fact that it's all metal on the outside. So I think that is a really neat thing. It could use a little cleaning there. It's been sitting underneath a tree. Probably doesn't get much sun on that side of the building, looks like. So it's grown some algae there on the side, but that is metal siding, so that would just clean right off. I don't think it's a bad deal at all, though. It looks to be in decent shape inside. I can't tell if that is a leak under that window or not. It's possible. That looks like what's the remnants of where they did house wrap before they put their window in. So it may have house wrap on it. That's kind of cool. I mean, it's obviously nothing fancy at all, but for $5,500, I think that's a pretty good deal. Now, the trouble would be, how easy would that be to move? I'm not sure who you would get to move something that tall. They'd have to have a special permit, I'm sure, to go down the road, and they'd definitely have to plan out their route. It's it says it's 18 foot high, so they'd have to make sure they didn't go in under any bridges. But I think that's really neat. Let's see what else we can find here. I've been noticing a lot of little tiny houses in my area recently. And they just seem to come up, I guess because I look for them so often. I mean, look at this little thing. I think we looked at this last week, maybe. It's pretty affordable too. It's very small. Let's see, they got a little sink going on there. A little kind of kitchenette. That's pretty much all it is one room. Oh, and a porta potty. Yeah, that might be a little bit roughing it for me. But for that price, I tell you what, if you were needing a place to get in, you can't really beat that price. So I know we've looked at that one. We looked at that one last week. Oh, that was a little pricey. I bet it must be fancy inside. It's got a wood heater. Oh yeah, they've done a pretty good job with it, I bet. That's nice. What do you guys think about that? $47,000. Oh, it's got an Ashley stove. Yep, a wood stove. Looks like it was done pretty well. Some sort of little rock hearth there. Little bathroom. Oh, it's got a stock tank for a bathtub. Glenn says, like the first one more than the second one. Oh, this one has a loft. Oh, wait a minute. Is that 2 lofts? Yep. If you could crawl up there. Looks like they burnt the plywood floors. I forgot what you call that. It's a Japanese technique where you can burn the floor with a torch and makes it look really cool. Thank you, Mary. I appreciate you saying that. Mary said, love your information. Tiny house living is becoming a thing. I think it's because people can't afford a regular house. I tell you what, the way prices are going, it is unreal. Let's see what else we can find here. Let's see. Oh, this is a shed. And I'm not sure why this is so expensive. I don't see anything worth $18,000 there. I mean, they've run a few outlets, but that's not really much of an upgrade. Maybe a 100-amp power box there with a 2 or 3 lights, and maybe a handful of outlets. You guys see anything there that's worth $18,000? I do not get that. I looked at a 14 by 40 today that had interior walls already framed out, and I think it was only 13,000. They're calling some of these tiny homes, but they're not finished yet. I bet this one is. This is a 12 by 24. Oh, we looked at this one last week. They haven't sold it yet. Now that's right there is a pretty good deal if you ask me. 10,000, depending on how they insulated it. That would be the big thing. Whoa. Well, there's a tiny house on wheels, and that's why I don't have one. $115,000. That is why I can't afford a tiny house on wheels. It's nice, but is it $115,000 nice? It is fancy. Nice and clean and all new. they did a good job on the layout. But if you had your own property, man, I think you could hire a construction crew to build you a pretty decent sized house for 115,000. I guess you just really want the tiny house on wheels to buy something like that. That's a little expensive for my taste. It is pretty though. I think most of the folks that I talk to that are considering a shed conversion or building a tiny house, most of them it's due to their financial situation. There's a few people that want it because of the mobility. They want to be able to travel or move their home around, and then I guess something on wheels would be worth that. But for the most part, it's folks like myself that was just looking for something cheaper than a conventional house and didn't want to get into a 30-year mortgage. And so you start looking for other ways to get around that. And at least that's why we got our shed and made it into a home. So if I was going to spend 115,000, to be honest with you, I would probably go ahead and spend another 50,000, put in 150, 175,000 and buy a house with a mortgage that's going to appreciate in value. I don't believe these tiny homes um, on wheels are going to appreciate in value. I really don't know if that would happen. Now this is a awful fancy shed here. You gotta see that. That's huge. That's 8 foot longer than our house, and our house I thought was really big, but that's 8 foot longer without a porch. So it's got a lot of square footage in it. 16 by 60. It's got 2 walk-in doors, 4 insulated windows. I was noticing this right here. That's kind of cool. If you'll notice, the soffit is vented. That's a great idea. Let's see what the ceiling looks like. If they have a ridge vent in it, it's hard to tell. Maybe. Because then if you got a ridge vent, you got airflow that comes up from that soffit. It'll come up the roof line and then out through the ridge vent, which is the way ours is made. Our house has a ridge vent that runs the whole length of it. And I purposely, when I insulated our roof, I guess I should look and see I don't know if you can see me, but when I insulated our roof, our soffits ours didn't come with vents already in it, but when you look over there, you could see the light and see air gaps. And it's just because the way it's built. And they're very small soffits. Our soffits are maybe 4 to 5 inches wide, not very big, but airflow can come up and go up our roof line to our ridge and then out the ridge vent. And I did that in a special way. I actually took foam insulation, the 4x8 sheets of styrofoam that you'll see, the white styrofoam at Lowe's or Home Depot or wherever your hardware store is. And I cut 1/2 inch strips, and maybe I can find a picture I'll show you. But I don't know how that works. I've never tried showing a picture here before, but let's see if I can do this. I'm going to try, guys. Hope I don't mess anything up. Let's see. Can I do... window. How about that? You guys can see that? So these are pictures from when I was building our house, our shed conversion. So I'll show you this and see if that'll give you an idea of what I'm talking about. So what I did was I cut a 4x8 sheet of styrofoam into 1/2 inch strips. There, there I am on the front porch with my pale white legs. That was a 4x8 sheet of styrofoam. Go back, and I cut into 1/2 inch strips. And then what I did was I took liquid nails, as you can see there, and ran a bead of liquid nails across those little strips. And I stuck them to the decking on the roof there. And I wish I could have had a better picture. But you know, at the time, I didn't think I was going to be showing folks my build. I didn't have the idea for the AskPawPaw channel at that time. Let's see if I can get this to play. I think this is a video. No, I don't know how to do that. But anyway. So let's see. I'm sorry. Let me get back to the chat real quick. Hey, Papa, you should start a consulting service. Yeah, I love tiny homes. I really believe in them. I think it can be a big help to a lot of folks. Not so much the tiny home movement like it started, where it's like I said, folks putting them on wheels and the kind of fancier ones. But I think there's a place for making small, affordable housing for folks that are in need. There's Hey, Nicole from Brookville, Florida. Good to see you. I think there's a huge need for folks that for affordable housing. You know, I've been talking to folks on and off. They'll email me and tell me a little bit about their situation, and it's actually kind of heartbreaking sometimes to talk to these people because I wish I could help every one of them. You know, I wish I could go where they're at and help them build their own shed. There's a lot of folks that are in dire straits. You know, they're living on a fixed income, or they're just like me and haven't made a huge amount of money in their life, and now they're stuck with a fairly low income, and rent is just outrageous. You know, one lady I spoke to, I think she lives on $1,600 a month, and her rent is like $1,100 a month, and it's just crazy. And there's so many people that could use a nice place to live. Hey, Papa Sam, and I just think there's an opportunity for folks that can't do a traditional mortgage, maybe can't get qualified because of their credit, or they just don't have the money, can't afford a huge mortgage, or just don't want one, would rather spend, you know, it's not just for poor people. There's some people just don't want to spend. I mean, my wife and I, we could have qualified for a small mortgage. I mean, nothing fancy. I can't go buy $500,000 or $1 million house with my income. But our credit was good enough. I could have went and probably bought a $150,000 house, $200,000 house, and pay what, $1,500 a month for the next 30 years. But we didn't want to do that. We wanted to save what money we had and what time we have left for me to earn an income. we'd rather have that money go towards stuff that we enjoy, paying off a little bit of. We still got a little bit of consumer debt. I know, don't holler at me, but we want to get in a little bit better shape before I retire here in about 7 years, and we definitely don't want to have a mortgage when we go into retirement. So I say all that to say I think tiny homes are great. I think shed conversions can be great. I think it's not for everyone. I think a lot of people jump into it, unfortunately, without knowing what all is involved. Uh, and you see that time and time again. Unfortunately, when I go to these shed lots and here on Facebook Marketplace, when I'm looking for these used tiny homes, you see a lot of them, especially at the shed lots. You see a lot of these repos that are just partially finished, halfway finished. You know, someone was kind of like started to put insulation in and they've tried to do some wiring, and you look at it and you can just tell right off the bat that they didn't really know what they were doing, but they tried, and they probably, sadly enough, they probably ran out of money, or they got disheartened when they couldn't figure it out, and they just kind of gave up and probably went back to whatever they were doing before. So it's kind of tough. It's not an easy thing to do, to convert a shed. Even though the framing's done for you, there's still a lot left to do. So anyway, Papa Sam says 200,000 at a 30-year mortgage at 6.5%, which is probably a decent rate right now, isn't it? I know it got pretty high for a while there. Is 1636 without tax and insurance or PMI. Oh goodness. Can you imagine? I mean, no one's going to have 20% to put down. But 1636, I can't even imagine paying a $1,636 a month payment. I mean, you'd have to have two incomes, first of all, and they'd have to be good incomes for you to even have anything left. What does Dave Ramsey say? A good rule of thumb is no more than 25% of your income should go to housing. Sorry, guys, that me drinking water is loud, but my throat gets dry talking. I do love to talk, though. Anyway, we got off topic a little bit. I was kind of showing you some pictures. Yeah, 25% of take home. That's what he said. I love Dave Ramsey. I have. I was going to say I have listened to Dave Ramsey for years. I have not listened to Dave Ramsey, or I'd be in better shape. I have followed Dave Ramsey, and I have played his show on the radio for years, probably since like late 90s, I guess, 97. I think I started listening to him, but I never listened to him like I should have, or else I would be wealthy by now, right? Excuse me. Yep, excuse me. And he also says no more than a fixed income or 15-year fixed mortgage. That's right. Let's see here. I'm gonna go back to these pictures I was showing you. So this is me when we were converting this shed, and what I was explaining to you what I did with the insulation. So if you notice on the ceiling, what I did was I ran roughly ½ inch. Those may be a little bigger. I just did it by hand. I just stripped it with a utility knife and made strips. And then I took liquid nails and I put liquid nails down. Oh, you know what? Let's see if I can get this video to play. No, that was only 4 seconds. I got a video of me explaining. So this building got a really good deal on, and so I settled for it already was built. You guys let me know if you can hear that. And it only has 2x4 rafters. Structurally, it's sound. It's good enough for the 16-foot wide, but it's not ideal for insulation. But I settled for it, like I said, because I got a great deal. So the problem I had was, how am I going to insulate this? I could have spray foamed, but I would have only gotten about 3 inches of spray foam. And yes, they say it has the most R value and it seals it good and all that, but money was an issue for us because just to do this was going to be quite a bit of money. So it was kind of cost prohibitive for us. So I started looking at what else we could do. And if you'll notice up there, you'll see there's a continuous ridge vent right down the center. A nice ridge vent that's open with a screen to keep bugs and such out. So I wanted to have airflow, ventilation, because condensation and mildew is really a problem in buildings. So this building has a nice soffit. I know you can't see it from there, probably, but you might can see the light coming in. There's a soffit here that's not completely sealed. It is closed with wood, but it's not airtight, which is a good thing. So I wanted to utilize the cross flow of the air from this soffit vent up to our continuous ridge vent. So I started researching, and I found that people are taking, this is just styrofoam, which you see me cut. They get in little 4-foot sheets, and you can just cut little strips and put liquid nails on it. And what I'm doing is I'm just sticking it to the ceiling here in 3 spots. One right next to the rafter, making sure it goes down at least over the soffit vent. And you see that liquid nail works really great. Just stick it on there and it's done. And then I'm going to go one about down the center here. And it's not got to be perfect. You don't have to measure.
And I just came up with this.
All I'm doing is creating
this
a
method.
spacer. And these are 3/4 inch. So I've got
I did
a
a lot of
3/4 inch
research
space, and I'm going to put one down this side of the rafter. And in essence, what that does is it's going to create 2 air channels here, where air can go up from the soffit vent along your roof deck and out the ridge vent. And what this does is acts as a spacer to hold our radiant barrier off the deck. The 2 things that are important about that, from there again, I'm no expert, have no idea, never worked in insulation before. This is just what I've researched.
I'm still no expert.
But the idea, first of all, radiant barrier, supposedly, according to the manufacturer, you really don't get any good radiant barrier from radiant barrier until you have an airspace on the other side of it. In other words, you want an airspace between your radiant barrier and your roof deck, or the source of your heat. They showed a nice demonstration of a radiant barrier, and they sat it on a hot skillet, and it really didn't block any of the heat. But yet, if you take that radiant barrier and raise it 1 inch up off the hot skillet, it blocks 97% of the radiant heat. Because when the radiant barrier is touching the deck, now it's got conduction heat, and you don't want that. So anyway, so we put these spacers in, like so. Like I said, they're simply just a little liquid nails, and they're just stuck there. They pretty much instantly stick. I was very surprised how easily and how quickly this sticks up here.
Hey, Bluegrass Girl.
Now, if you'll notice, you can see I've already done the radiant barrier here. So the radiant barrier goes up, but I'm not covering my soffit vent. I have it come down to the top plate before the soffit vent, so air can get up around and go above the radiant barrier and out the ridge vent. And then I'm going to come back. If you look back on our first couple of rafters we've got completed, I'm going back with the R19 insulation on top of the radiant barrier for my actual insulation. Because radiant barrier in itself does not provide much insulation at all. Matter of fact, this is probably only like an R1, to be honest with you. Maybe R2 or 3, counting the airspace above it. If you just put it straight to the deck, it would be pretty much no R value. Even this double bubble stuff may give you 1 R value. So anyway, that's what we're doing.
All right. Well, I found that from, that was from, when is that? August 5th, 2020. I don't know if that's the exact right date or not, but that sounds about right. We've been in our shed conversion for 3 years now, I guess. So let me get that back down. Were you guys able to hear that and see it okay? Anyway, somebody let me know
I hope I wasn't just sitting here in silence the whole time. I hope you guys could tell what I was saying. Oh, that's one of my grandbabies. Sorry. That's one of my grandbabies. Look, oh, it's just a little old thing and a little peanut. But anyway, there's no telling what you'll see here as I go through this. But that was me putting up all the stuff there. And that's that's one of my buddies at work messing around. All right, I'm gonna quit going through my photos before I embarrass myself. Ain't no telling what I'll find here, but nothing ugly. But anyway, that's me putting the radiant barrier. I did want you guys to be able to see that. So if you'll notice what I've done there is I went and put those strips of styrofoam, and you can kind of tell in this picture. I apologize if it's not very good, but you can kind of see in this picture how I have stuck those up, and you watched me stick them up in that. And all that does is acts as makes a baffle, more or less. I wanted 2 baffles running up each rafter there, and then I stapled this double bubble, what's it called, Reflectix insulation. I stapled it up from rafter to rafter and right up against that foam, and the foam helps hold it away from the roofing deck so that there's an air gap. And then I came back, as you saw, with the R19 insulation and put it on top of there. All right. So anyway, and you know, our shed only has 2x4 rafters, which obviously is not ideal. If you could get 2x6 or 2x8, or what a house would probably have 2x8, a regular stick built house. And I know that I've heard that Graceland buildings, I haven't really got to go look at them, although I'm planning a trip to a Graceland sales lot. There's not one real close to me, but I think it's within maybe an hour and a half of my house. So I do plan a trip to go check out Graceland buildings, but I've heard that they use 2x6s. And I'm suspecting that they're a little more expensive than what I'm used to, because there again, you can make anything nice, but it all comes with a price, right? So anytime you upgrade stuff, it's going to be a little more expensive. But regardless, our rafters are just 2x4s. And I decided to, as you saw, I put the styrofoam, then I put the Reflectix, and then I put R19. And yes, you have to compress R19 down in order to fit it in a 2x4 rafter, especially after I put that 1/2 inch styrofoam and then that Reflectix and then the R19. But I did a lot of research, and what I found was, even if you compress fiberglass insulation, you do lose R value, but the net gain was still more than had I used R13, if that makes any sense to you. There's actually a calculator you can use that, as you compress it, you can, if you figure out how the space that you're compressing it into, this calculator would actually tell you what the R19 value was, supposedly. Maybe not exact, but it was an estimation. And so I figured ours, by compressing the R19, we still got R16. And then you add the 1 or 2 that I get from the Reflectix and the air gap. And so I'm probably close to R17, R18, somewhere in that. And had I just thrown R13 up there without doing anything else, 2 things would have happened. First of all, we'd only be R13, but also you have nowhere for that condensation to go. There's no airflow. So you're just going to have heat and you're going to have moisture. And that's what happens in a lot of these sheds. That's one of the big mistakes I see people making, is not having proper ventilation. because they'll grab one of these small sheds. And I'm sure if you've looked into a shed conversion at all and went to a shed lot, you've probably seen a shed that just has the gable end vents. In other words, it's just a little cutout on the gable end wall, and it just has a small metal vent stuck up there, and that's it. And it's more or less just to keep bugs out. And guess what? That's perfectly fine if you're just going to use your shed for its purpose and intent was to store lawnmowers and put your tools in. It wasn't meant to be built as a climate controlled environment. It was really just to keep your rain off your tools and your lawnmower, or, store your old stuff in there or whatever. But if you're going to make a house, you need better ventilation. And another thing you see, mistakes you see people make, unfortunately, a lot of people, because of necessity, they use propane for heat, number one. And propane is a great thing. I grew up using propane. It's it's readily available. It's easy to install, usually. You don't have to run electric wire, and sometimes it's cheaper, depending on what area you're in. It's cheaper than electric heat. And propane is great, except that people don't understand that propane, by just burning propane, the byproduct of burning propane is water vapor, H2O. And I mean, if you look it up and study it, you'll see that like burning a gallon of propane releases a gallon of water vapor in your home. I mean, it's a 1-to-1 type thing. So people wonder why they get a small 10 by 20 or 12 by 24 shed. They throw some sheetrock up, they throw a little insulation in it, they stick a propane heater in it and light it up. And now they're sitting in this little small area with a fairly low ceiling, small space, small square footage. And now they're burning propane. And then you're also breathing. And with every expiration breath, you're putting out moisture. And now if there's 2 or 3 of you in there, it's even worse. And that's why you'll hear the horror stories of someone with a shed conversion, and they say it's raining in my house. It's raining down on me. And what that is, it's usually in the winter, and it's usually due to propane. So you got to have good ventilation, and you got to be careful with how you heat it. I don't know if you can see it there in the background. I've got my background blurred so my wife don't shoot me for recording in our messy house, but we have a mini split here, and I love my mini split. Now, if I could, I'd have a wood stove, but with a wood stove comes a lot of other challenges. First of all, getting the wood, and the older you get, it's a little tougher to cut wood, get out there if you have time and you have the physical capability of getting wood. But also then you have the danger of wood. And if you're installing the wood stove yourself, you really need to know what you're doing, right? And so I love the mini split. They're very energy efficient. They're not super expensive. Ours is a DIY. I installed it 100% by myself. Had no one helping me. Had no HVAC technician come out or anything. The DIY models are really great in the fact that you can just plug them in and they go. You don't have to have them charged with the coolant, whatever they call. I don't know what coolant's inside of a mini split. Someone else might be able to tell us. But anyway, the mini split's the way to go. And it's a heat pump, just like your central heat and air would be on a large house. And it heats and cools. My only downfall is that we just have the one, and our house is pretty good size. I mean, it's around 600 square foot, really. So I'm thinking of putting a second one in our bedroom, and hopefully I'll get to do that sometime this summer. We'll see. And when I do that, I'm actually going to do a hybrid mini split. I don't know if you've heard of those, but now they have the AC/DC mini splits that as long as the sun's shining, they'll run off solar panels. And they're not that expensive, really. I think I can get the mini split, the hybrid mini split, along with the solar panels necessary to run it when the sun's shining enough to run it for less than 3,000. I think it was more like 26, 2,700, which sounds like a lot of money, and it is. But this regular mini split is around somewhere between 1,600 and 2,000, and it's not hybrid. It's just a straight electric. So it's not a horrible price to pay if you can save a little bit of electric bill. And it also is a great off-grid option, I think, if someone was planning on going off-grid. But anyway, so I wanted to tell you a little bit about those mistakes that I see other people make with the lack of ventilation and with the moisture in the air. And then I can tell you about some of the mistakes that I've made. One of the biggest mistakes I've made was our foundation. I think I talked to you before about this on one of our lives, was that I just let the shed movers come in, set up our shed, and didn't really watch them real close, and they didn't get all the piers that they should have probably underneath. So I'm missing a few piers, and some of the piers aren't leveled properly. So you can see daylight between my my building and the concrete blocks on a few of them. So I need to rework that. And what has happened over the last 3 years that we've been in this home, of course, you start building out your shed, and what do? Now it's a home, so you're adding appliances. Added all of this wood on the walls, right? You start finishing your walls out, and whether that's sheetrock or wood or paneling, whatever, you start adding all this weight. Your water heater, your bathtub, your shower, your sinks, your countertops, then your furniture, and then, of course, yourself. And you start adding all that stuff, and that's when your building starts settling. So what has happened over the last few years for us is obviously it's become a little unlevel. Not a dangerous thing like it's going to fall, but I can just tell. I can see where it's unlevel. And so what I'm currently doing is trying to go back underneath and leveling and fixing our foundation where it's a little bit stronger. So that's one of the biggest mistakes or regrets for our shed conversion is the foundation. I wish I'd have done it differently, and I suggest that you do it differently if you decide to convert a shed to a home. I think the best thing you can do, if I had to go back and do it again, is I would find out exactly where my piers are under my building. I would measure where I wanted to put my concrete blocks, and before the building even got there, I would measure exactly where they were going to sit and be. And then I would come back to my property and I would mark those spots, and I would pour me a 2x2 foot concrete footer, a couple foot deep, maybe 18 inches, 2 foot deep. And I'd already have footers so that when they pull the building in, they can sit my concrete block piers right on top of my little footers that are already there. And if you do it right and you get it level, then you'd never have to worry about it again. Of course, that may be a little overkill, but that's what I would do if I were to do it again. So another mistake, well, I won't say mistake, but regret, is I should have finished the building 100% complete before we moved in. I didn't. We were excited, wanting to move in. The mobile home we were living in, I gave to my brother-in-law and his family, and they were kind of in need. He was really sick and had kidney failure at the time. And so we just gave them our mobile home that I had bought years before. And he was needing a place, so we kind of hurry up and got into this house a little quicker than probably what we should have. We should have finished our trim, and that's no excuse because it's been 3 years and there's still some trim that needs to be put up. But that's some advice I would give you is, and I've heard that before from other people that built houses, is they say, don't move in until you get all the trim up, because once you move in, it's hard to make yourself go back, and it's harder to do with furniture and everything in the way. So anyway, so if you guys don't mind, if you'll like the live, I'd appreciate that. I forgot I was supposed to ask for that. I think they say you're supposed to ask people to like it. It helps, I guess, with the different platforms. They see that you people like it, and then they promote it more next time. But anyway, has anybody got any questions about? And I also would like to know. I'd love to know if you are planning a tiny home for yourself or a shed conversion, if it just interests you, or are you actually hoping to do it for yourself. I'd love if you told me in the chat um, where you're at in your journey. I mean, is it just something that interests you and you're trying to find out more about it? Are you really looking to do it yourself? Or maybe you already live in a tiny home or a shed conversion. So anyway, that'd be great. Making sure this is working here. All right. You're welcome, Melanie. Melanie said, thank you for your help. I forgot I can put your comments up on the screen. That would help. And hey, you said thanks. There you go. Thank you. You're welcome. You're very welcome. I try to pass on the things that I've learned. It took me a lot of studying and researching to figure out some of these things. And I still don't know, there's plenty of people that know way more than me. Some of these folks are construction people, and they leave comments on my videos, and I appreciate it when they tell me things. Bluegrass Girl says, just gathering wool, as my granny would say. That's right. Just gathering wool. I've heard that saying. Do you have any issues with your home with moisture problems or mold? Okay. Yes and no. So I don't have any issues in most of our home with any type of mold or moisture. I have, so both of the lofts, I don't know if you can see way back there is our bedroom. So just real quickly, this directly behind me, you see this wall? That's our bathroom. Okay. It's an 8 by 8 foot bathroom. And then this over here, I hope I'm pointing right. I hope you can see that in the thing. This behind me, over on this side over here, is our washer and dryer. And then we left a little hallway in between. So as you walk through the hallway, on this side is the bathroom, that side is the washer and dryer, and straight ahead is the door into our bedroom. So all of this is fine. Above the bedroom is what was a loft when we bought our shed. But the loft was so small. It was one of those, I don't know if you've looked at many sheds, but it wasn't really even big enough for me to quite sit up. And so I thought, this is really useless. I mean, there's not really much we could do with it except maybe make a flat lay-in space that the grandbabies could crawl up there and sleep. But it just really, it didn't feel like it was worth fooling with as far as finishing out. So instead, what I did was I built a wall in front of the loft there, insulated that, and I put a door, a little swinging door. And so now it's just an attic space where I can store. So we store stuff like Christmas tree or, stuff like that we don't use very often or not going to get down very frequently. We'll store stuff up there. So I say all that to say I can go in my attic and there's nothing, no condensation, no mold, no anything. We haven't had any issues with condensation inside the house or mold or anything other than our bathroom. So inside of our bathroom, if you'll see how low our ceiling is on the bathroom, I can, and I'm a fairly short guy. I'm only like 5'8.5", and I can reach up and touch the ceiling if I get on my tippy toes in our bathroom. It's not very tall. That's one thing that I regret, making our ceiling so low. And I researched and found the strongest bathroom vent that I could find at Lowe's anyway. I didn't order online, but I found the strongest one that they sold as far as cubic feet a minute or whatever. I think it's CFM, cubic feet a minute, for the airflow. And I installed it. That being said, we still get condensation on the ceiling of the bathroom, and it will occasionally, you'll see little mold trying to grow. And so that is the only problem that we have. Underneath our house, no mold, because I did not insulate the floor. And that's a whole nother issue. It is cold in the winter. I think if I was to do it again from scratch and had the time and the money, I would probably go ahead and try to get someone to spray foam insulate the floor. That being said, now that I have not insulated, I like the fact that I can crawl under the house and I can look and see, and there's no moisture, there's no condensation, there's no mold under my house, and I can see it. I can actually see the decking of the floor. You know, I can see the OSB or the flooring, the tongue and groove flooring. And I don't want to change that. I don't want to go under there and throw bat insulation up under there, which what I'd have to do, fiberglass insulation. And I don't want to even put sheet of insulation, the foam board insulation. I've heard you could take that and you can staple it up or screw it up to the bottom of your floor joist. I don't really want to do that either, because I can see that there's no moisture in there. And once I cover it, what if there is moisture gets in there? And I won't know it until stuff starts to rot. So what I've decided to do, I saw a video of a guy who was underpinning a trailer, a mobile home. And I loved the way he did it. He took foam board insulation, the 4x8 sheets of foam board insulation, and he cut them down and he placed them. And then he put wood, like in a board and batten type manner. If you are familiar with board and batten, and it looks really nice. So it has wood here and then the foam board on the back side. And then every 10 foot or so, he put a nice big vent. And that's what I think I plan to do for underneath the house. As of now, the only moisture problem we have is in our bathroom, like I said. And that is, I don't really know how to fix that. Like I said, our vent that's in the bathroom is really strong. I guess I could find one even stronger. But if I was to give anyone advice on their shed conversion, I would say if you're going to build a bathroom, I wish I'd have taken the ceiling and just went all the way up when I build it. And I may still go back and remodel and do that one day. But my thought was that would one day, see where that storage is? I thought that one day that would be a little sleeping loft for a grandbaby. I've since decided that that wasn't a good idea, and it's never going to happen like that. So I should have made that ceiling go all the way up to the roof. I think that extra space above would have helped in eliminating that moisture. But also, my daughter and grandson is living with us currently. I'm not sure, but you may have seen my video where I talk about I'm planning a tiny home for them. And that's because they're living with us. And right here in the living room, matter of fact. So with that being said, there's 4 folks in this little house at the moment. And so a lot of showers, a lot of well, we don't have a bathtub, but a lot of showers, um, and a lot of moisture in the bathroom. And I'm hoping I can fix that. Let's see. Sorry, let me get back up here. So, hey, are you guys still there? I'm sorry. Somebody let me know. There we go. I'm so sorry, guys. Could y'all hear me or did I just go away? I don't know what's going on. Not sure what happened there. Yeah. Okay. Can you hear me now though? Sorry about that. I don't know why it was doing that. Papa clicked the wrong button. That's right. You know what I think it is? I think what I did was I'm on a what's it? One of the Macs, the MacBook, and I have my touchpad here that I'm trying to scroll through the chats. And I think what I did was I accidentally pushed left or right instead of up and down, and it backed me up on the computer tab. You know what I mean? On the window. Anyway, sorry. Yep. I was just wrapping up about the moisture in the bathroom. Anyway, I probably talked too long about that anyway, but that's the only moisture that we have experienced in our shed conversion was in the bathroom. So I did want to touch base with just a couple of things real quick. I was going to let y'all know I have a couple of videos coming out this week. Hopefully, you guys will enjoy. believe it or not, some of it's going to be discussing this same stuff. Um, I have one where I took a pretty popular shed conversion video that's on YouTube that's going over mistakes made, like common mistakes for shed conversions. It's an older video, but I agreed with most of what the guy said, but not all of it. So it's kind of me reacting to that video and talking about my opinion of the things he's saying. And then I also filmed a 10 common mistakes that people make converting a shed of my own. So it's I think it'll be helpful for folks. But look for that to come out this week. And I also wanted to touch base with my daughter's tiny home. I know a lot of you guys are waiting for me to uh, well, I assume you've seen my video talking about my daughter's tiny home and how I want to build one for her. And I've made 2 videos. One was actually going and looking at the sheds and deciding whether or not I wanted to uh, buy a shed for my daughter and create a shed to home conversion. And then I went to Lowe's on the other one and looked at all of the what I thought would be the materials I would need to build a shed shell or the equivalent in a building from scratch, straight up from the ground. And what I was trying to figure out was the pricing, whether it be cheaper or if it's going to roughly come out to be about the same. Because if you think about it, if the price is the same to buy the materials than it is to have it already pre-built, then obviously time and the labor involved in building it, even though it would probably be a better build if you knew what you were doing to build it yourself. But anyway, so we're still trying to think over that and decide what we want to do. And of course, money's an issue. My daughter's working and saving up money, and we're going to help her. But, you know, everything takes time, especially when it comes to money, right? So we're still trying to figure out what we're going to do. I have come up with an idea, though, and I'd love to hear y'all's opinion on it. I have thought about getting a very small shed, smaller than I would get to build them a house. But here's a thought I had, and this actually came from one of my viewers. One of my viewers said, "Well, why don't you just go ahead and get them a place that you can make into a bedroom, and then later add a kitchen and a bathroom to it?" And it made a lot of sense to me because right now they're living here in my living room, more or less. So I'm thinking about getting a small shed that we could afford right now. I'm finishing it out, and it be more or less, more or less like their bedroom. So I think that would be a good idea. I don't know. You guys let me know what you think. But it would serve 2 purposes. First of all, I could go ahead and film myself finishing out that shed, and that would help other folks. I think it would help folks see me finish a shed out and give them an idea for the ones that are thinking of doing it themselves. And then when I get it finished out, obviously my daughter and grandson could sleep in it, and then they could come in here to the house for meals and to take a shower, that sort of thing. So I don't know. I don't know what you guys think. I know that's a little, it's not very fancy, but we're not fancy people. So there you go. I am who I am. They would be pretty much, Papa Sam says, walking between buildings for bathroom needs, right? A porta potty or something might be good. Yeah, I thought about that also. My daughter is intrigued with the idea of having an actual composting toilet. And I don't mean the kind you see on YouTube videos where the people have a bucket and some sawdust. Although I don't think there's anything wrong with that if that's your thing. But I'm talking more the kind of the fancier, like the Nature's Head, if you've ever heard of that. It's a little bit fancier porta potty. It's vented. You hook it up to vent out. It has it runs, I think, on 12-volt, but you can run on electricity, regular electricity too, 120, and it has a fan in it that constantly draws out. It has a diverter so that you can, separate liquids from solids. And supposedly there's no smell. And I don't know about that, but um, I think she's interested in one of those. Even when we build her regular full blown house out, her regular tiny home, she wants a nature's head compost and toilet. So maybe we could go ahead and invest in that and stick it in their little small room. And here's the only reason I'm thinking of doing that, because for two reasons. Even if um, even when later we build their tiny home, their bigger tiny home, um, the smaller tiny home could be used. I would love to have a YouTube studio. I know I'm getting ahead of myself, like I'm a big famous YouTuber or something, but instead of sitting here in my living room or sitting out in our little cargo trailer, it'd be nice to have like a little office kind of YouTube space where I could film and I don't know, just like a little man cave. Also, we could use it as a guest room for when all my other daughters come over and all the grandbabies and things. It'd be another extra kind of bedroom. So that's my thought. It might work for a while, and then they can transition into the bigger tiny house from the small tiny house. So that's kind of what we're thinking as far as my daughter. That's the update on that. I think I can pull that off easier and quicker. And then it would give them a little bit of their own Pawpaw's doghouse. There you or, yeah, that's where Mama would send me too when I get in trouble. She's suggested that on several occasions that we have our own tiny house. And I'm just kidding. She's gonna whoop me if she hears me talking about her. But anyway, so that being said, I want to tell y'all about a couple of other things I had in mind for my channel, and I wanted to get your opinion. Um, if you guys ever have any ideas for things that you think would help people, tools or otherwise, let me know, and I'll try to see if I can develop it for them and for you. Um, but I was thinking about doing like an ebook, um, more or less a book. I just don't want to go through the whole thing of like trying to write an actual book that's going to be published. I think it'll be a digital type thing. I don't think I'd put it on Amazon. I may, but I think first I would just rather have it for you guys and see if you like it. But I thought about doing a shed to home / tiny home ebook that's just a planning guide that would walk you through the whole process of whether which avenue was right for you, whether it be when it comes to affordable housing, whether it be a mobile home, an RV, a tiny home, a shed conversion, and then also um, walking through the steps of planning it and budgeting it and the whole 9 yards. So I'm thinking about that. But what I'm really excited about, and I don't know, you guys tell me if I'm getting the right vibe here, but we're slowly starting to develop a community, I feel. Um, and I would love to have some sort of community uh, membership, some sort of community site, if that makes any sense. And I'd love to have a place where we could gather. I have a Facebook group, but the trouble with Facebook is I don't know about you, but like when I'm in a Facebook group or even my friends on Facebook, I very rarely see their posts. And I don't understand. It's something to do with the algorithm. But just because I'm friends with you or you're part of a Facebook group that I run, something like that, you're not going to see every post. We're not going to be able to communicate unless I like directly uh, message you on there. So I'm thinking about a platform, and I'm looking at a couple of different things, but there's some platforms where you could come in and be part of the community and it would just be us, people that chose to be there. But the great thing about it is, you would, if you turn on notifications or whatever, you would see every post, or you could go on there and you'd see everybody's, and you guys could have communication with each other. So when people had ideas or people had questions, you guys could help each other as well. So let me know if you think that it would be interesting to you to possibly be part of some sort of community. And if I get enough people that are interested in it, then I'll pursue putting that together. But these platforms are crazy expensive for anything halfway decent that has chat and rooms that you can, talk to each other and communicate. Uh, and there's also options for, like, I don't want to say courses, but where we could do trainings, we could do lives in there like this, but just for groups in the community, and it'd be more of a close knit kind of thing. Anyway, let me know what you guys think. If you think I'm onto the right thing there with that, I would love to try it. But anyway, does anybody have any other questions? Oh, and let you know, I do have a newsletter that comes out. I try to do one once a week, and it more or less usually just talks about um, the videos that are coming up this week. And I usually try to put some information in there that'll help folks. And if you'd like to sign up for that, you can go to AskPawPaw.com. I do have a website. It's nothing fancy because I made it myself, but it's AskPawPaw.com/newsletter if you're interested in signing up for the newsletter. And you can also go to AskPawPaw.com and check out. I have some articles on there. I'm still trying to write articles, and it's just, it's a lot to do, guys. Between YouTubing and my regular job and all the stuff I need to do around the house, it gets to be a little much, doesn't it? Say, Papa Sam says he likes the Facebook. I think it's still the lowest barrier to entry. Right? Yeah. The Facebook algorithm can mess you up quite a bit. Excuse me. It's I don't know. Facebook just isn't what it used to be. And the other problem with Facebook is if they chose to shut you off for any reason, just like YouTube or any of these platforms, if they shut you off, you're gone. If you don't actually own the platform, like my website is, I pay for my website, I own my website. And so when you have your own platform, then you have a little more say of what you can do. But anyway, so does anybody have any questions or any thoughts to share before we sign off? I really appreciate y'all being here. Hey, you says I would join a membership. Never been on Facebook. I guess Facebook's really I got on TikTok for a little while, just because a lot of my friends at work were on TikTok, but they are all younger than me. And I guess TikTok's a big thing for younger folks. But I just I don't like the fast TikTok thing, um, the short things. I prefer the long form content. I prefer doing a video. Um, I just enjoy it better. I guess I could probably reach more people if I got on TikTok too. And I mean, I'm actually on TikTok. There's an AskPawPaw channel, but I don't put much on there. So But I do think a membership would be great. I don't know. I may experiment with it and see. Like I said, the platforms are just they're a little pricey. Um, so I'd hate to invest in starting one and invest the time in putting it all together because I'd want it to be um, have some value to it. I'd want people to be able to go in there and actually get something for being part of the membership. I mean, they need to get more than just what they could get on YouTube. I want them to be able to, whether it's just not just being part of the community, but I want them to be able to have access to me on a different level. So I don't know. Maybe I would do some sort of like coaching or consulting, like someone was saying, where I can help people that are actually uh, wanting to put together their tiny home. I don't know. Who knows? We'll see. We'll see. Yeah. Well, I would. Bluegrass Girl said, "I don't join any things, but I learn something every time I get on here." Absolutely. And I wouldn't stop doing my YouTube channel or doing these lives, but it's just into it. In addition to, I've had several people that wanted to have more. They wanted to have more of a community thing, um, where I guess where we could just get together and, like I said, where they could talk to each other more. Because you really can't do that much in YouTube. I mean, I guess you can make a comment on a video and then someone else can reply, but it's not the same as having a community where you can go on there and ask questions and have other people put in their input and that sort of thing. So, all right, guys. Well, I've kept you long enough. I appreciate your patience. I'm sorry that I blacked out there for a minute. I got to quit touching the wrong buttons here and figure out what I'm doing. But anyway, so you guys look for that video. I'll have a video that drops tomorrow evening. And then I'm trying to do a video every Sunday and Wednesday, roughly. I'm trying to do 2 a week, but it's hard to do. It takes a lot of time to put a video together. I don't know if you've ever done one, but whew, it takes a lot of time. So by the time I put one together and by the time I film it and then edit it and put it together, it takes quite a bit of my time. But I do appreciate you guys sticking with me. And I guess if there's no other questions, then I'm going to sign off. And you guys have a great rest of your weekend. I hope it's good weather. It's supposed to rain here tomorrow, I think, but I hope it's good weather where you are. And if I can do anything for you, you can always email me at pawpaw at askpawpaw.com. Let me write that in here. There you go. So that should take you to my, you should be able to email me if you ever have any questions or need anything. Feel free. And you're welcome, Pamela. Sorry, you may not go by Pam. But I appreciate y'all. Y'all have a great weekend. And be sure to look out for that video that's coming tomorrow evening. Like it and share it with your friends. And I'd appreciate that. That'll help me a lot. And thanks for being around. I'll see you guys, okay?